Human Services Committee order at 6:45. Members present is myself and Councilor Blair. Mr. Waterman is not here yet. So, Sarah, if you want to come on up. So, all right.
I'm
sorry, name and address, and then what you're going for, and then continue on.
Okay, great. So my name is Sarah Ryan Thoreau. I live at 388 Tiffany Street. I'm interested in joining the Cultural Council. So I guess I can tell you a little bit about myself. I'll just kind of shorten some of my answers. So basically, I'm interested in joining the council. I am a lifelong artist. I studied at Massachusetts College of Art and Design. I currently work in the marketing field in Boston, so I feel like a lot of my skills would transcend into working on or supporting a council that's based on cultural arts. I've always been interested in community service. In a prior role in a former career, I was in charge of executive outreach programs, so I found that very fulfilling. And as a creative person, I wasn't really sure how to give back to the community, So when I found out about the Cultural Council, I was very excited. Let's see. I've lived in Attleboro for 15 years, and I have an 8-year-old son, and I just want to show him that anybody can, give back to their community, and that was one of the reasons that inspired me to come here tonight.
All right. Councilor Blair.
Excuse me, I haven't got my ears on yet.
Sorry.
You say you lived here 15 years?
Yes.
And you work where, in Boston?
I work in Boston, yes.
Okay.
At an architectural firm. I'm their marketing coordinator.
Sounds like fun.
It can be.
Like everything.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much for volunteering.
Thank you.
Councilor Waterman and Councilor Dolan.
I apologize, there was an accident on Pleasant Street. It cost me a little time, but I heard part of what you said, and I've read what you've written.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that very much. This is a growing city in terms of the arts. And for example, there's 4 theater groups that I'm aware of spread throughout the city, including one that's for children, at least one, maybe even 2. So it is becoming more and more a center for the arts, as well as our art museum. Mm-hmm. So your diligence and interest in this is very, very important, and I see it growing. So that's good for our city.
Thanks, Councilor Waterman. Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for volunteering, and it sounds like you'll be a perfect fit. So I appreciate your willingness to serve.
All right. Well, thanks, Sarah. Obviously, I think echo Councilor Dolan's sentiments, and absolutely, I think it'll be a great fit, and we appreciate everything that is volunteering, and so we'll vote. We'll decide a committee today, and it'll go into council next week, and then you'll get a letter. I think you'll get a letter in the mail. And then you'll come on down at your convenience when you get sworn in, and then you'll be on the council.
Okay, great.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Rick? Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So name and address and what you're running for.
Absolutely. So my name is Rick Rathbun. I live at 1010 Way. Been in the city 13 years, so I live right off of Tiffany, obviously. I'm going for the position on the Traffic Studies Commission. And just going to my background, sir, at this point?
Yeah, or if you want to read from the questionnaire, sorry. Thank you. Questionnaire, you can, whatever's easier for you.
Sure. So experience and skills. In 2021, I retired from the City of Warwick's Police Department. I had served in that department for 26 years. I retired as their chief of police. I now serve I actually run the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission for here in the Commonwealth for the 257 law enforcement departments that are in our program. And specifically the experience going back to my nearly 3 decades in Warwick. As it relates to the Traffic Studies Commission, I have sort of how the sausage is made in my role in community services in the traffic side of the house. I actually conducted traffic surveys. I worked with a manual on traffic control devices closely with Public Works. So I kind of have the front-end user experience of getting a complaint or looking for Public Works for a change in engineering or enforcement and doing the work on the front end before it went to City Council or the Board of Public Safety in my or my municipality. At the end of the day, I think that experience is invaluable in specifically my ability to volunteer now. For 30 years, I didn't have free nights. So I'm in a unique position now with the transition to my second career to actually have time to give back and volunteer and use the experience on the tail end and hopefully be able to use that and help the city, specifically the traffic, the police departments, and the city council as a whole and the subcommittees. I'm interested because after residing in the city for the 13 years I've been here, I found a home. You know, I'm a 12th generation Rhode Islander. I never thought I'd move to the Commonwealth. Upon doing so, my wife and I can't be happier, and it's a chance to give back to the community. One issue I think is, as it relates to in front of the committee or the board would be, that I'm passionate about, is the balance, striking a balance between complaints from city residents and businesses for any changes to existing traffic ordinance or conditions to ensure that any changes that are approved or implemented or recommended are realistic and they provide a sustainable solution to the issue without adding any unintended conditions to the complaint. It's very simple to say I want the speed limit increased or decreased, or I want a speed bump put in, or I want signage put in. But as I learned over my time, there's always an unintended consequence, and you have to look at it strategically as it relates to public safety, emergency response times, damage to vehicles, effects to school buses, et cetera. So not to say that you want to discount, but you have to look at the broad picture that precipitated the complaint, and something as it relates to education, engineering, or enforcement within the traffic safety planning. So it's just something I was thinking about when I put the application in. I provided my resume for you to review. I'm a little humbled. It's really tough to kind of talk about all the things I've done. But at the end of the day, I feel comfortable and confident in my experience, and it's my chance to give back to this city that I now call my home.
Awesome, well, thank you. Council Blair, Council Conti, and then I'm sure
Thank
Council
you
Waterbury.
very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It's great to have somebody with your experience in law enforcement on that traffic committee. I've in charge of public safety on the council. Close personal friend of our chief. I don't know if you've met him, Kyle.
He's a good man, yes, sir.
You've met him?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I think your fit on the traffic study committee is unbelievably great.
Thank you. I'm humbled, sir. I appreciate that.
I'm glad that somebody of your caliber has applied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Conti?
Councilor Angelo, you hit a home run with this one. Congratulations.
Couldn't agree with you more.
I'm sure my councilor to my right feels exactly the same way. And sir, I wish I could clone you to 4 more, because we would have a traffic study commission that is awesome. I've attended probably 12 or 15 traffic study commissions in my 14 years as a city councilor.
Yes, sir.
And you are exactly what is needed on that commission. And I am so grateful for you volunteering to do this. I can't thank you enough, because that commission, it has ebbed and flowed. You know, where it struggled with people who couldn't wrestle with those serious issues that are at hand, and others that had their own agenda, which is a problem also.
Yes, sir.
So I am thrilled beyond words that you are in front of us tonight, and you have 100% of my support, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Council Dolan?
Yeah, I thank you. Do you have any friends?
Trying to get them again. Like I said, for 30 years, hobbies and friends and nights weren't really available, so we're trying to build on that now at this stage of myself.
No, just everything you said was perfect, because, you know, the unintended consequences, I mean, you know, we do have constituents with legitimate complaints. That may be right. What they need and what they want may be exactly what we'll do. But, you know, they realize that it has to be looked at, and I'm sure Councilor Bennett was quite thrilled seeing your resume. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Council Waterman? And then Council Bennett?
Well, we have already had a good long talk, the two
Yes,
of
we
us.
did. Doorstep.
I enjoyed that a lot. I would have to say, as I look back in this campaign, talking to people at the doors like we did, that this is maybe the number one subject, traffic and transportation issues. But of course, what happens in one part of the city can have effects around the corner on another part of the city. And that is very wise to be looking at it from that angle, I think. So thank you.
Thank you.
President Delicio. Oh, Kelly, I'm sorry, Kelly.
Thank
Kelly,
you.
yep.
Thank you so much for volunteering as the chair of the Transportation and Traffic Committee on the council and the representative from the council to the Traffic Study Commission. I am well versed in all of the issues that the city sees day to day, and most of the phone calls and the emails that I field are traffic related, parking related, stop signs and speed issues, and the whole range of things. If you're anything like me, you drive around town now with a lens through which you see all these traffic issues happening, and you probably think about the ways that you would suggest improvements. If you had to identify one thing around town that you think could be improved, what would that one thing be?
So I think the education side I talked about the 3 E's of traffic safety, specifically for pedestrian safety. I mean, I thought it was interesting. You know, social medias it's good and it's bad for obvious reasons, and the simplicity of it. I remember a recent post about some of the crosswalk signage and warning signs, and someone was complaining about it was being put up. To me, I found that astounding, and the amount of fatalities that I was directly involved with investigating or supervising in my previous position. So I think that the education side of it and how you look at potential working with the police department, public works on that side, public safety campaigns, but pedestrian, I think, is, you drive around the city, we have so many areas where, there's pedestrian traffic, and most people don't understand the implications where it's around the clock traffic at times for the pedestrians. So that's something that stood out to me. I think the difficulty, you talk about driving around the city, it's tough to turn off 30 years of experience. It is nice not to have to see some of the things that you see when you're in a patrol car, but I do think that right now, when you look at when people are complaining that you're adding warning signs and solar flashing lights, to me that's a significant problem, and educating the public as to the necessity of them and the great risk to pedestrians on our roadways here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Delicio.
Thank you for coming down tonight. Councilor Bennett asked the exact question I wanted to ask. Blown away by your presentation, by your answers. One thing you said that really resonates with me is the whole concept of unintended consequences. And we talk about this an awful lot with the ordinances. If the ordinances aren't enforceable, then it's just feel-good legislation.
Correct.
So I don't want to belabor the point, but I agree with my councilors. I think you're going to do great things here, and thank you for volunteering.
Thank you, sir.
Quite welcome.
Well, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate it for a couple of reasons. One, your experience is going to be incredible for the city. And two, I don't get to see the councils this happy. So thank you for that, too.
I usually don't have that effect, but it definitely is the chief. I never made a city council happy as a chief of police, so it's nice to see on this side.
Well, I appreciate it. If I could, so we'll be voting this tonight, and then...
Council Cruz, sorry.
Vice President Kobus.
If I could put a damper on things for a second, then.
You said enough, that's it.
The one challenge I would present to you then, Holden Street in Attleboro has been a challenge for forever. And so that's the one thing that, the one challenge I would present to you to always sort of try to think creatively about and always keep in the back of your head. And if there's anything you can think of, always try to keep that in the back of your mind. And I mean, I agree with everybody. The resume looks great. Everything looks great. And so if anybody can come up with some sort of a creative solution, we're all open to ideas there. But that's one challenge that's sort of plagued us for forever that I don't think any of us have ideas for. So challenge you with that.
I would say accepted, but I want to be gracious too. So thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
So we'll vote you out tonight, and then next week it'll go into council. That'll get voted out. And then you'll get an email and come on down and at your convenience swearing in with Clerk Jackson. And look forward to you contributing.
Thank you all for your time and for your It's humbling to have this opportunity, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you all.
Well, thanks, Rick, because I know you came over here from another meeting you're
I
already
walked
in.
out, I never met him, I walked out, they're like, who's this guy? So I have to go back into the planning committee again, so I appreciate it. So thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Rick, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, continuing on. For the docket of October 17th, 2023, entertain a motion to transfer $2,261.91 from account 1124100-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1543100-511-000 Veterans Benefit Salary Wages to address a shortfall in the veterans agent salary for fiscal year '24.
Second.
Thank you, sir. This basically is for Ben Quell with the increase that's happened, and so that's going to cover that. Any questions? No. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. For the docket of October 17, 2023, entertain a motion to approve expending such funds in any future amendments regarding the receipt of earmark grant for the Executive Office of Elders Affair, $80,207.
Second.
Thank you, sir. This obviously is a great grant, and this is going to be excellent for the office and of Elder Affairs, and this will be awesome. Any questions?
No? It's
All
great.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. From the docket of October 3rd, 2023, I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Rick J. Rathbun, 10 Tenant Way, to fill an unexpired term of the Traffic Study Commission, term to expire February 2024.
Second.
Thank you, sir. We just heard from Rick. Obviously, everybody's very impressed. Any other questions? No. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. From the docket of October 3rd, 2023, I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Sarah Ryan Theroux, 388 Tiffany Street, to fill an expired term of the Cultural Council, term to expire February 2026.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. We just heard from Sarah, and I think she's going to be a great fit as well, and look forward to her being there. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0, and that's all for Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee. I call for adjournment at 7:02.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:02.
Council Waterman?
The License Committee does not have any business this evening. We'll meet at the next appropriate time.
I'd like to call Public Works to order at 7:02. I have 4 motions. From the docket of October 17, 2023, I entertain a motion to accept the donation of 2 painted murals at the Balfour Riverwalk Park from the Attleboro Arts Museum. The museum was awarded a $12,500 grant through Mass Development TDI for the expansion of Attleboro's public art initiatives.
Second?
Thank you. Kind of self-explanatory. Does anybody have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of October 17, 2023, I entertain a motion to transfer $24,570 from account 6100-578300, Water Enterprise Fund Reserve Fund, for transfer to account 6100-530180, Water Enterprise Fund Safety Study, to hire an outside consultant to provide the required safety, health, and compliancy training.
Second.
So this is the same, what we did for wastewater, DPW, just for the compliancy training for OSHA and such. Does anybody have any questions? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of October 17, 2023, I entertain a motion to approve expending of such funds and any future grant amendments regarding the receipt of a grant through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, which will provide assistance with a lead service line inventory currently underway. This grant includes reimbursement up to the total cost of the project.
Second.
So this, we had allocated $80,000 back in October of 2022 for this. And initially, we didn't qualify for this grant, but now we have. And thank you to Courtney for reapplying. We have $50,000 unspent at this point, so we don't know if they're going to cover just that $50,000 or the whole project, which is $80,000. So, fingers crossed, that would be wonderful if they cover the whole 80. But she's working with Deb Gould to figure out if they'll just cover the unspent funds or the whole project.
Definitely a plus, Laura.
Right? It's fantastic. So, does anybody have any questions? President Delicio?
Thank you, Council Dolan. First of all, whenever we can get a grant like this, it's fantastic. I'm just curious, and it's not going to impact my vote, but do we know what changed, why, the first go around we weren't eligible to now why we are eligible?
Well, I called Courtney on her day off, which I always forget that city people get days off. So she was kind enough to speak with me, and if you just give me a second. I don't know if I wrote down why. It says, I wrote down, we were originally not eligible to cover the whole $80,000, approximately $50,000. I don't know.
Okay.
I can find out.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not going to impact the way I vote. It's just more curiosity than anything.
And I feel like she told me,
Yeah.
but it's not here in my notes, but I can find out.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for looking into that.
Let me just write that before I forget. Does anybody else have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of October 17, 2023, I entertain a motion to transfer $5,625 from account 11241-000-578-300, Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 16301-000, 548030, Recreation Supplies Vehicles, to purchase a Tommy Gate hydraulic lift gate for Rec Number 4. Additionally, the council authorizes the use of funding from the Recreation Revolving Funds to complete this purchase if needed.
Second.
Thank you. So this is a Tommy Gate for the truck. Between all the parks and everything, they do around 70 barrels of trash and everything twice a week. And as you know, it can be kind of a lot of work. So this will just help them on wear and tear on the people. Council Blair? I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
Council Blair?
Kudos to our director over there for coming up with this. That's a safety hazard. That's one of the only departments, I believe, we actually use 55-gallon drums.
Yeah.
They become very heavy. To put those to put those up in the truck's impossible, so I imagine Dennis a lot of times sends two. This is definitely a time saver, to be able to put them on that gate, pick it up, slide them on a truck
Yeah.
without somebody getting hurt and becoming a workman's comp case.
Agree.
It's just,
Yeah, they can load them up on the gate, raise it up.
Yeah, it's forward thinking, and it's safety for our employees as well.
And they'll be more efficient as
Be
well.
more efficient, less money to do the same job. Got to spend a little to get a little, and something that'll last the life of that truck too, and they properly maintain their equipment over there.
Agree.
So,
Councilor Angelo?
All I was going to say is just that this is going to pay for itself in no time, similar to basically what Council Blair is saying. This is a great thing and very smart to do this.
Agree. Anybody else have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That's all the business tonight for Public Works. I'd like to call for an adjournment at 7:09.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
I'd like to call the Finance Committee together at 7:09. Sitting on this committee are Councilor Cobus and Councilor Reynolds. I have several matters, I think 4 this evening to discuss, beginning with from the docket of October 17th, 2023. I entertain a motion to approve expending such funds in any future grant amendments regarding the receipt of a Sustainable Materials Recovery Program municipal grant from the Massachusetts DEP in the amount of $51,000. The funding will be used to enhance the performance of the city's waste reduction programs.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus. Pretty self-explanatory. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. From the docket of October 17, 2023, referred to study and recommendation to the Finance Committee, the following, that the mayor approve the local option of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3C, a city scholarship fund, which residents will have the ability to voluntarily contribute as follows. The mayor, with approval of the municipal council, will form a City of Attleboro Scholarship Committee, which will consist of the superintendent of schools and 4 members of the community. The committee must adhere to the following guidelines and criterion. A, the recipients of financial aid must be residents of the City of Attleboro at the time the financial aid is first awarded and have been accepted to pursue education beyond the secondary school level at an institution deemed to be accredited by the committee. B, the committee shall take into consideration each recipient's financial need, character, scholastic record, and involvement with the community, as well as extracurricular school activities. C, the scholarship committee may distribute financial aid, or the education committee may distribute supplemental educational funds for the school from both interest and principal of the fund without further appropriation. D, the scholarship committee shall establish a procedure for determining the amounts or percentages of the funds that shall be authorized for distribution and for fortifying the investing officer or agency that the funds may be made available in a timely manner and with a minimum of penalties.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus. This is very dear to my heart because there was a day and time when I was the subject of this. When I graduated from high school, I received sufficient scholarships from the community to enter the University of New Hampshire my freshman year. And I never would have gone to college without it. This is important. As important as assisting disabled or the elderly. I see it just as critical. And I'm sorry I didn't see this before, but it came across my desk and I thought immediately this is exactly what Attleboro needs. And I see absolutely no harm, potential harm, or unintended consequences as a result of passing this measure. What it entails is simply the card that we put in already in our taxes for contribution to elderly or disabled will just have a second line for the scholarship fund with an exclamation along with everything else. So I see no additional costs because we already put the insert into the bills. And it just needs to be altered and we can move forward from there. I'll take any questions. Yes, Councilor Coates.
And I just want to confirm that A, B, C, and D as written here match Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3C, and that was
Exactly.
okay. I just want to verify that. Then
Any other
Okay with it.
questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Councilor Delcio.
No, thank you, Rick. I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward, and I think that this is coming at a time where you're looking at the college tuition prices, and it's really astronomical, and families are struggling and saving for years and using retirement. Anything we can do as a city to help, I think it's our responsibility. So kudos to you, and I thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councilor Delcio. This was easy. It made a difference in my life.
Yep.
And I believe it will make a difference. But the benefit is, sir, that it keeps Attleboro dollars in Attleboro.
Right.
Very important, particularly in this regard. Rather than students applying for scholarships in faraway places and competing against everybody, this is home, which I would love to see more graduates come back and stay in Attleboro, but that's a whole other subject.
Investment in our future is a wise
Investment in our
wise
future, exactly right.
investment.
Exactly right. So the motion's in order. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's take the last one before we take the third one. From the docket of September 19th, 2023. Oops, I gotta hold that. So we will take the last one. From the docket of October 3rd, 2023, I entertain a motion that the percentage of the local tax levy be borne by each class of property for the fiscal year 2024 as 1.25.
second.
Thank you, Councilor Comas. So last year I advocated for for 1.25. This year, I'm advocating for 1.25. I know the argument's going to be that the tax bills are getting higher, but the tax bills are getting higher because of the override. When we approved a $265 million school, it was the voters of the city of Attleboro, the residents side of the tax levy, that voted that increase, that tax increase. It was not the commercial side, and it's wrong to penalize the commercial for paying majority of that tax bill on the override. So, by reducing the tax rate down to 1.25, we are at a place where the tax rate is fair and just and equitable in light of a split tax rate environment. The issue I see is that if we don't do this year, we're losing a window where it's going to be possible to get that tax rate in a more reasonable rate. So I did have a long conversation with, well, not a long conversation, with the assessor, and I asked her to change some of the information. You heard me last week. So I asked her to put the tax rate in financial order rather than alphabetical order. And you can see that Attleboro is right smack in the middle of Bristol County. And that's with the override. So my attitude is that because the voters, the residences, voted for the override, which is adding a significant amounts to their tax bill, we should not be in the middle of the county, but we should be on the upper end of it, because we have a brand-new high school that we're paying for the next 27 years. For now, that completes my comments. I'm looking forward to hearing any other debate, because I'm telling you now, I will vote for a 1.25 tax split in this committee, and I will not vote for another rate. So if you want to get it out of committee tonight and meet the October 17th deadline, I'd recommend one or two things. Either the two of you agree on a rate other than 1.25, make a motion to amend and pass that motion, or pass the 1.25 and create a debate and the council as a whole. And that concludes my comments. Councilor Reynolds.
So I motion to amend, and as I always do, every year, that's the way it goes, and I motion to amend on the high end because I think we are actually taxing persons out of their home, and it's gotten ridiculous. So I'm going to ask to amend to 1.45 because that brings the average still at 5.33%, and last year it was at 5% also. And I actually believe that, yeah, they voted the school in, but not everybody did. I mean, the overwhelming amount got the majority, but there's plenty of people that can't afford it and are still disappointed in the fact that the school was built, and they're paying for that as well. So,
Second.
thank you.
Second by Councilor Cobus. Is there any further discussion? Motion's in order. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. No. The motion passes 2-1. And the motion passes. And that completes the business that I have to bring before the council this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I declare
Do we
the...
want to, so I think we just voted on.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to vote on
you have to vote the amendment.
You're
I'm
right,
sorry.
you're right. We voted on the amendment, so now we'll vote on the motion. The motion, I entertain a motion that the percentage of the local tax levy be borne by each class of property for fiscal 2024 is 1.45.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. The motion passes 2-1. And that completes the business that the Finance Committee has to bring before this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I declare the Finance Committee adjourned at 7:19. Shocking.
Like you've done that a couple of times. I call Transportation Traffic Committee to order at 7:19. Present with me this evening are Councilors Dolan and Tavares. No motions for this evening for the committee. I do have an update though for everyone. On speed humps. So my understanding is that the speed humps on Rocklawn Ave have been installed, but they've not yet been painted or marked. So this is just sort of a warning for the folks at home that these speed humps, particularly as it's getting darker earlier, may be difficult to see. There are barrels by with the location of the speed humps, which, if you know Rocklawn Ave, you know that it's darker to begin with, so maybe a little tough to see, but just be aware that that marks the location of them. Hopefully they will be painted this week, so that you can see those markings as you're approaching, and hopefully not damage your vehicles going the posted speed limit of 30 as you hit the speed humps. So that is the only item. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I have some more information in case you do. Yes.
Just that, from seeing some social media posts, and as much as I don't like to buy into a lot of that, but there have been some put in without being painted, because obviously you have to wait for the weather and to get to it, that there was a lot of scrapes and stuff because people weren't seeing it, because like you said, it is getting darker. So I don't know if the city is going to put it on their website or on their social media that to say, hey, be careful of this also, because
Yes.
obviously everybody's not listening to this.
So my understanding is that the installation dates and times, there's a notice that's sent via resident letters, the city website, AACS, the Sun Chronicle, and on social media as well. And I think what you might be referring to is the Rathbone Willard Drive over by Studley Elementary and the high school. Those were installed as part of the high school construction plan and not the same as the speed humps that we're installing
Right.
throughout the city.
Right.
So those are handled a little bit differently.
Yeah.
For these, what we're waiting for the Rocklawn ones in particular, we're waiting for the curing of the speed humps and for the oil to set so that those can be painted and the paint would adhere properly. So just pay attention out there if you're driving. Just know that these have been installed, and be careful. And that concludes the business for Transportation and Traffic Committee for this evening. I call for an adjournment.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. We are adjourned at 7:21.
Thank you. IT and infrastructure is canceled for tonight.
Zoning and Land Use Committee to order at 7:22. Myself, Councilor Conti, and Vice President Kobus. From the docket of October 3rd, 2023, I entertain a motion to approve the expending of the following grant and any further grant amendments regarding a $45,000 Housing and Livable Communities Best Practice Grant that will be used to hire a consultant to help the city create affordable housing trust fund and/or adopt the Community Preservation Act to fund production and preservation of affordable housing in the city.
Second.
Thank you. We did receive the letter dated from the governor's office dated August 30th that has to do with this grant. So it's exciting that we're getting it. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One opposed?
Opposed?
Yes.
Motion passes 2-1. Okay. Thank you. So I invited, next week, a committee meeting is going to be at 6:30. Before the regular meeting, Gary's going to be joining us to talk about the 66, Gary and Mike Tyler, to talk about the 66 streets that we're going to potentially accept. So any questions that you have, I would encourage you to bring them along. I hope Virginia's been forwarding a few emails, some of the questions that I had, and then if you have any others, you can send them to Virginia, or you can certainly just ask yourself next week. Councilor Conti?
So I watched the committee meeting during the committee of the whole when the residents came forth to speak about road improvements. And of course, you know, I am Mr. Capital Improvement Road, pave the roads, Conti. There was a lot of misinformation in what that person was bringing forth to the council. And I would like for the committee to map out the way streets are approved by the city so that it's clear that all these things have to fall in line before, because it's quite a process. And that's not understood by the public. So I think it deserves some airing, especially with the approval of 66 streets.
Yes, I love that. So you know what, I'll read the motion right now just so we can discuss it, and then, because I feel like we're kind of talking about it, and then we can pull back the second and then have Gary come next week, because that's one of the things, so maybe we can kind of talk about amongst ourselves what we would like to ask next week. But from the docket of April 4th, 2023, I entertain a motion to approve the acceptance of 66 public ways per a State House Special Act.
Second.
Thank you. So I agree that we need to be more aware of the process of accepting the streets. This is about 8 miles, even though it says 66 streets or ways. It's really only 8 miles, but we really do need to be more familiar with the process of how this comes about. And I'm hoping that Gary and Mike can shed some light on that. Any other comments about this? Because it was kind of, I'm going to just do President Delacio and then Council Reynolds.
Thank you, Council Holmes. So, Council Conti, thank you for starting this conversation. Council Holmes, thank you for doing your diligence on this. I know it's been a long time, a little start, stop. But I think having Gary and Mike here is going to be able to satisfy Council Conti's concern about how we got to this point. I think also the history of these 66. I think Mr. McGuire brought up an interesting point about Level Acres Farm, and if that was 30 years ago. I think there's some questions that those two gentlemen will be quite equipped to answer, and I think that it'll start to shine a lot of light on really what this is. Usually, like I said last week, we do one every 3 or 4 months, maybe 2. This is 66, and to have the people come down to be able to air their concerns, and then be able to act from those concerns. I think it's admirable as council and the job you're doing, Council Holmes. So I think we'll get a lot of that answered next week.
Thank you. Council Reynolds.
So I kind of follow along with both those reasonings and wondering why some of them took 20 or 30 years, why they never got here in front of us, because obviously we would have passed them if it had been requested. So, I mean, 66 is a lot. 8 miles makes it seem more bearable. It's not totally out of control. But, there are people I know in these streets that are suggesting they'd rather the city left it alone. But I think we also have to be aware that if that's the case, what are we offering them that's better or any different than what they've been doing for years? Is it a liability issue? Is it the fact that they believe they're going to keep it up better than we will, based on some of the streets we have here in disrepair in the city? So I think there's a lot of questions we really have to answer about, especially to those people that have been taking care of their own property for 20, 30 years. And that ends my comments.
Thank you. Council Blair.
I took it on myself to one of the streets that were brought up at the public hearing, Hazel Street Extension. I'm very familiar with it, and the person at the end, Mrs. Sylvia, who's 93, couldn't make it here last week. The lady at the podium said that Mrs. Sylvia did not want that street accepted. I personally went down and seen Ruth. Right? She's wholeheartedly in favor
I'm not talking Hazel.
of us accepting that street. She understands that, if something happens in the water going in, the benefits for it being accepted are much greater than not accepting it. And truthfully, the city's not gonna go in there and put a 40-foot roadway in. But this way they can legally plow it. The neighbors will get better service. And we were misinformed as a council that she was against it. She's not against it. She understands it. She's 93, but she understands the benefits of that driveway, whatever, being accepted by the city. So I just wanted to bring that out so there's no misinformation on this council it received.
Thank you. All right, Council Dolan.
So I think, when we talk about how we do onesie, twosies normally, I think because this is a special act, I think it was to circumvent, the normal workload of submitting. So I think the state might have put out something to the effect of, hey, if you have a bunch of roads that aren't accepted, we can have the special act and you can do it all at once if it's approved. So I don't think I don't know in the city if we've ever done anything like this, but this being a special act, it's a special occasion. This isn't something that we normally do. It normally is onesie, twosies, fives, whatever. So I think this is to circumvent something that might be more of a struggle to get through to have it, but I'm sure Gary and Mike can explain it better to us. But that's my thought process. That's what I think this is, it being a special act.
Yes. Thank you. Vice President Close.
One of the things, maybe we could go through and sort of list exactly what questions we want to send to Gary and list those out now so that we can give those questions to Gary and Mike ahead of time. The ones that I've roughly written down is I think we want him to clearly describe the process of sort of releasing the funds back to developers. I think is one that I've heard and that we should clearly describe what that process looks like. One that I'd like to understand is roughly the amount of money we see from the state for Chapter 70 money per mile. So when we talk about approving...
Chapter 90.
Oh, excuse me, Chapter 90 money. Okay. When we talk about approving X number of miles of road, what does that actually translate to? And then I think it'd be useful to clearly list out the benefits to the residents and understand exactly what we're talking about when we say we're going to approve these roads as accepted streets. What exactly does that mean when we say there's additional services? Like, I think we need to clearly list out what exactly those services are. I mean, we're talking about plowing, but what else? I think that it would be useful to sort of describe that, but not only from the residents' perspective, but I think as city councilors, we should also understand what that means from a cost perspective and what the impact is as far as services and what our responsibility is for maintaining the roads at that point, and what that cost is. And I think that's all I had. And then maybe there's other questions, but those are the ones that I listed out that we could maybe send to Gary and Mike.
I will do Council Conti.
So I would add one that might need to go to the city solicitor, and that is, what is the potential liability of a street that we do not accept? If there is a casualty on the street that could have been prevented if the street were accepted, what's the liability to the city?
Point of order, Councilor Holmes. Just to that point, what I would suggest, and I think it's a fair point, Councilor Conti, I think that if you deem appropriate, Diane, I would recommend sending that question to the city solicitor.
Okay.
And that may call for executive session.
Yep.
Because that, with the contents of his reply, may not want to become public yet.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Ben.
I have two questions to add to the list. I assume, I'm anticipating that many members of the public will want to know what didn't happen in the typical process for 66 of these streets not to have been accepted. And also, is there a time frame associated with the special act in which the council would have to have voted this in order for it to be picked up by the state? So what type of time frame we're working under?
Yes. So I do know that I did ask that specific question. I said, how is the policy changed so we can avoid this in the future? And the response was, the policy works. I was a little bit shocked by that. I guess the last time this happened was in 1994, and there was close to 300 streets that were accepted. But just like we have a tax season, we have a budget season, I really feel like this should be coming down. Like if the planning department, like every March, we should be getting like 7 streets, or like there needs to be some sort of system in place to kind of not like it's just, and then all of a sudden we have to do this again. I really feel like and that could potentially be an ordinance change or something else that could come of this. I do have to. I support this. We need to pass this. But there's questions about kind of how this is coming about, and that's a good thing. I think that there could potentially be some positive changes that could come about this. So I have to say I definitely support this. I think that there's no question we have to work towards accepting these streets, but I think it's just a little bit alarming how many there are and why this is all of a sudden coming about, I guess, after close to 30 years. Any other questions?
I just say I agree with it too, that I believe it should be passed, but I'm right on board with the liability issue. And I'm really on board with wondering how we're going to change it so we're not waiting 20 years or 30 years for something again. That we ever get to this number or even get past 10 a year. What's taking so long? If there's 50 in 1 year, if it's a good policy, then why can't we pass 50 of them in a year? I guess that's my issue. I mean, we're not building. Are we building that many homes in 1 year in the city? I don't think so. New roads. I mean, that's 8 miles. This wasn't a 1 year thing. This is multiple years. So what's the average? I'd like to know what the average new road is that we don't, and why is it did we get to? I want to know why we are in this place, and how we're going to prevent it in the future if our policy is so good.
So the other thing is that if it could be an issue where we're releasing funds to developers and maybe the work's not done. So this may, like I said, this may open up something else where we have to kind of investigate a little bit further or change a policy or ordinance. Council Blair?
We had this happen once before when I first come on the council, that we accepted a large amount of streets. I think Gary should explain it to us, and Mike Tyler.
You walked in.
You're timing or what?
No.
No.
But it should be, it's a simple process. Once a street is inspected and it's met the conditions of the plan and subdivision, the builder gets his bond back. It's relatively simple. I think it's just, I will do it next year type thing. I think it's been let go, personally. There's no reason that these streets should go that long, especially the new streets. Matter of fact, I mean, the street gets inspected, it meets the conditions of the plan, the builder gets his money back. It's a rubber stamp to come down here and accept the street. Pretty simple, I think, common sense. But of course, common sense isn't too common anymore, right, Richard?
That's a fact.
Any other comment?
And so just to follow up to Councilor Blair's point, there's one other nuance that I'm sure that, Gary can confirm. But in terms of the bond, I believe it's issued in draws back to the developer. So once a certain portion of the project is done, then, a portion of the bond is released. So in theory, maybe 75, 85%, 90% of the project could be done, and 90% of that bond be paid back to the developer, but there still be a portion that, for whatever reason, the developer didn't complete, did not receive that bond back, and now the city decides whether they're going to continue that work or not. So I think that there is that nuance as well. But again, I think Gary can confirm that.
Yeah, definitely. Council Dolan.
I actually lived on a street now that took a long time to be accepted. So I agree with Councilor Tavares. Sometimes they do issue portions of the bond back through certain phases, and sometimes the developers, depending on what's left, they'll walk away. So if they hypothetically, if they have 20 grand that we're holding in bond and it's not worth it to them, they'll just walk away. And I don't think it's like a rubber stamp for us to accept it. I think us accepting it is just a formality, so I think...
Well, that's what I meant by a rubber stamp.
Right, but I think the planning department, I believe there is work involved in sending the paperwork to the state. But again, Gary and Mike can clarify that. But I remember being on my street and watching the street sweeper turn around at the end of my street. And I'm like, I have beachfront property, and I'm like, where are you? What are you doing? And then I called, and they're like, you're not an accepted street. I'm like, what does that even mean? I had no idea what that meant. And I'm like, help me, So that began my quest. But my street was one of those streets, and my developer did have a bond, and he didn't care. But he came back. I shook him down for some trees that he was supposed to plant, and anyway. So there were a multitude of reasons, and I'm sure Gary and Mike will fill us in on that. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I will ask these questions. I'll organize them. If there's any others, you can send them to Virginia, and probably the next day or two I'll send them along so they'll be prepared. And can somebody withdraw their second?
I withdraw my second.
Thank you. And I will look to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 7:40.
City Property and Claims Committee has new business this evening. Is canceled.
I call ordinances, elections, and legislative matters to order at 7:40 PM. Members of this committee include myself, Councilor Bennett, and Councilor Holmes. Tonight we have 6 pieces of business. So first, from the docket of October 3rd, 2023, I entertain a motion to hold a public hearing on November 21st, 2023, to amend section 16-12.24 of the revised ordinances of Attleboro.
Second.
Thank you. So in lieu of reading the proposed amendment, a copy has been provided to each counselor. This is a public hearing, so unless you have any questions procedurally, I have no comments or questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I do believe, Council Tavares, that at one point you're going to need to read the ordinance in its entirety.
Okay, yes. At the full council hearing.
Council, but Mr. President has a different opinion.
Yes, and an opinion of the city solicitor that says as long as a full copy is made available to each councilor, that eliminates the need to read the entire motion. That came out earlier in the term.
So what I would like, Councilor, is if you would summarize the ordinance for the public, so the public understands what the ordinance is.
Sure, it's
So-
very lengthy.
So you don't need to read it.
But I can read
But
some
if you would pick
headings.
the highlights, which I'm sure you could do a great job of, you don't need to do it tonight, but on the floor, I'll be looking for it, because I want the public to understand what we're voting for.
That's fair enough.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Second item of business, from the docket of September 19, 2023, I entertain a motion to hold a public hearing on November 21st, 2023, for the following: amending Chapter 11 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, trade and fur products prohibited.
Second.
Thank you. And again, a copy's been provided to each counselor of this amendment as well. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. From the docket of September 5th, 2023, I entertain a motion to vote a release deed conveying all of the city's right, title, and interest in the property known as Reed Street, Assessor Map 25, lots 13 and 14, to the heirs of Walter L. Kelly.
Second.
Thank you. So this particular item of business is, so essentially this is a piece of property that was taken against the wrong owners back in 1960, and we're just correcting that now in 2023. So this is the vote, and then subsequent to this, we'll vote on the release deed. Any questions, comments?
I guess.
Yes.
Thank you. So how did this come about? Somebody just discovered it?
That's a good question. I know there's some history here. There were title examinations that were done on this property by 2 separate attorneys, one as recently as December, and one perhaps before that. Do you have a
I believe
comment?
it was related to the sidewalk project, is how this originally came up, because a certain amount of land would have been needed from each of the homeowners along that stretch, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And so as part of that process, I think this was identified.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the following release deed from the docket of September 5th, 2023, for the city to execute and deliver for nominal consideration a release deed conveying all of the city's right, title, and interest in and to the real property known as Reed Street, Assessor Map 25, lots 13 and 14, the property to Lee K. Ormerod of 7873 Hawthorne Drive, Unit 204, Naples, Florida, 34113. Shirley K. Fogarty of 980 Timberlake Drive, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, 48302. Beverly K. Howland of 73 Gowned Road, Westerly, Rhode Island. Heirs of Walter L. Kelly as confirmed by affidavit pursuant to REBA Title Standard Number 14 to resolve a cloud on the title to the property regarding the city's instrument of taking dated October 4, 1960 against Joseph Arnold and Phileta Arnold as assessed owners, said taking being recorded in the Bristol County Northern District Registry of Deeds in Book 1371, page 89, from which the city subsequently became the owner of the property under Treasurer's Deed to Municipality Land of low value dated October 20, 1964, and recorded in said Registry of Deeds in Book 1452, page 492. On information and belief, the correct assessed owner of the property was Walter L. Kelly by virtue of a warranty deed dated September 4, 1924, and recorded in said Registry of Deeds in Book 753, page 253, portion of second parcel. Walter L. Kelly died on May 19, 1951, last of Memphis, Tennessee. As a result of the foregoing, the aforementioned instrument of taking recorded at Bristol County Northern District Registry of Deeds at Book 1371, page 89, to be disclaimed, and the City of Attleboro property interest conveyed by release deed as aforesaid.
Second.
Thank you. I have no additional comments here. Any questions, comments? Yes, Councilor County.
So the operative words are in the middle of that paragraph when they talk about the municipality land of low value. The treasurer and the auditor will attest to the fact that the state has an assessor will attest to that there's very specific rules from the Department of Revenue on land of low value. But councilors can rest assured that this is no giant gift to these heirs, that they it's good that it's becoming taxable property, but it's not going to generate a lot of taxes for the city of Attleboro. And that concludes my comments.
That. All right, any other comments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of June 6, 2023, I entertain a motion to strike the following letter from Jason Leclerc to support Nova Farms developing 1000 Washington Street to a cannabis dispensary.
Second.
Thank you. So this was a letter sent by Mr. Leclerc earlier this year. I actually met with Mr. Leclerc a couple of weeks ago, and since then, since the letter, the council has approved the zoning change of retail cannabis locations to general business and planned highway business zones. Washington Street, or this particular address here on Washington Street, is located in the general business zone. So that has changed since. So this is just a motion to strike this. Any questions, concerns, comments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And lastly, from the docket of June 16, 2020, I move to strike a letter from Mark Kolakowski regarding changes of hours at the City Compost Center.
Second.
Thank you. So similarly with this, I spoke to Mr. Kolakowski recently, and this letter that he sent to the city was from 2020. So as you can imagine, this was during COVID. And his request was that the compost center somehow extend hours. That has since been resolved. At the time, the compost center was not open on Sundays, so he was having issues, like probably many other people, trying to schedule going to the compost center, sitting in long lines. So right now, the compost center is open on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 3. So that's mostly a mood issue at this point. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That concludes the business for ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. I move to adjourn at 7:49.
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 7:49.
I'd like to call Public Safety Committee to order at 7:50. I have two motions to bring forward this evening. From the, excuse me, the docket of October 17th, 2023. I entertain a motion to approve the expenditure of such fund and also approve any further grant amendments regarding the receipt of Green Communities Grant of $110,050 from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Emergencies Affairs. These funds will be used on winterization projects at the Fire Department Headquarters, Fire Department Training Center, Twin Village Fire Station, and Parks and Forestry Administration Building.
Second.
Just another grant that we greatly appreciate, and those department heads that got together and applied for this grant, my kudos to them. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. From the docket of October 17th, 2023, I entertain a motion to authorize the city to enter into contract with Comstar, a third-party ambulance billing company, for 1 year with 4 one-year renewals in accordance with MGL Chapter 30B, Section 12, Subsection B. The start date of the contracts would be November 1st, 2023.
Second.
Pretty straightforward. We've been using an outside billing agency for a long, long time. So, any comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Move to adjourn at 7:51, I believe.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
The Special Committee for Tax Abatement Review is canceled this evening.
Special Committee on Conservation Compensation is canceled this evening.
All folks, please just remember to get your committee